Okay, we're going to go ahead and just work on our very first Illustrator tutorial. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go down probably through the applications. So if you go to Finder, down here in the bottom left-hand corner, and you just open up Illustrator, you can go in through the applications if you want to. You can go in through the sort of stuff you have docked down at the bottom. I try to dock all of my things down here. So you want to just open up Illustrator, Creative Cloud 2014. It'll open up, and this will give you the Illustrator interface here. And so we have all these different, different places that you want to be paying attention to in Illustrator when you open up. Every Adobe product has sort of the same layout up here in terms of its, in terms of how the sort of workspace is structured. If you look here, there's actually a workspace button that you can click and you can save your workspace. And there's a lot of detailed things you can do with that. But the main thing to know is that these are the tools. So your tools are always going to be over here on the left. These are the palettes. So the palettes basically provide things that you can do to sort of change the appearance of objects that you've created. And then up here are the menus, and the menus have like a ton of hidden things that are way deep down inside of them. So those are three areas: tools, palettes, menus. I'm going to show you a tutorial about how to sort of get started on something. This is meant to be used in addition to the Adobe training that's also available to you. So this is just kind of to get you started for our very first training exercise. So if you want to go ahead and go up here to the menu and go to New. We want to select a new document. And there are all these options that you can choose from in here. And so, let's go ahead and save this as I'm going to call mine Stats Man because that's the name of my project. You can name it whatever you want. There's a profile that you can load here. There's print, web, devices. We'll just leave it at print for now. Number of artboards, that just means you can have multiple artboards visible at once. We just want to stick with one. Let's keep the paper size letter. So it's the letter size. We'll make its orientation portrait. You can do bleeds if you want to. And then the thing to know is that there's sometimes this will be closed, but you want to click it down. And there's a CMYK, color mode, and RGB. You want to choose CMYK since this project is going to be printed. CMYK is the standard mode for printing. RGB would be if you're just going to look at it on screen. You can go ahead and set your raster FX to 300 pixels per inch. Preview mode, you can go ahead and leave that in there if you want. And we'll just go ahead and click OK. So once you've done that, it should bring up a window that looks something like this. Now all you have to do is we're just going to go ahead and make some new shapes on there. So the thing to know, Illustrator basically works like you have to imagine you have pieces of like glass that are laid out in front of you, and you have little chunks of paper that you're stacking up on that piece of glass to make your imagery. So if you only have one layer, you just have one piece of glass, and so we can make shapes and add them in there. But it's only on one piece of glass, and it can get really confusing if you just have it on one layer. But I'll show you what I mean. So let's go ahead and you can open up the layers palette over here and just kind of see what's going on. But let's go ahead and go to our square thing here. And if you click and hold, anytime there's a little arrow next to one of the tools, you can click and hold it, and it'll bring up a lot of options underneath that. So let's grab an ellipse instead of a square, and let's just make a circle. So we're just going to make a circle to start with, and you can see that Illustrator basically works off a set of mathematical vector points. So we have basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mathematical points with your classic circle, and all Illustrator does is tells the software what to do with that math and how to make it look like art in the end. So right now we have just one circle on our one layer. But the thing to know is that you can actually change the appearance of your object. So if you click on the appearance palette over here, you can see that there are all these ways that you can kind of look at your appearance. An easier kind of shortcut would be just to make sure that it's selected. So you want to make sure that you've got the object itself selected. And there's two main appearances that you can mess with. You can mess with the stroke, which is this line that goes around the outside edge. And if you want to, you can make your stroke bigger, like punching up the point on the stroke. And then there's also the fill. So a fill, if you don't want any fill at all, you can click the universal no sign. But let's go ahead and fill that with black for now, just for fun. So we just have a single black circle in the middle of our page. So if we go back to our layers here, right now we just have one layer. And if I click down on this, you'll see that everything that's in that layer is kind of lined up here. And these things just sort of stack on top of each other, just like, you have to imagine it's a black piece of paper that you've cut out. So if you want to, you can just build something out of circles. So sometimes I like to, just for a demo, I like to go ahead and just mess around with building a little like profile of a mouse or something like that here, right? So a bear, something like that. So we basically constructed that out of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 circles. And if you look, you can see all of them, and you can actually turn them on and off by hitting the eyeball. And every Adobe product has this little eyeball function that allows you to turn the layers visibility on and off. If you want to make sure you selected that object, you click it down here, and then you know that everything you're doing is on there. If you want, you can lock that, and then I can't touch this. I can't move this one, but I can move the other ones. So sometimes this can be useful. But when you have a really complex illustration, it's going to be really deep, really full of things. So, so that just brings us to this idea that Illustrator was designed to keep files small. It's designed to kind of make things simple, vector-based. So it's just math instead of a raptor bitmap sort of pixels that we have to play around with. And that's all well and good, but it works best when you make everything kind of all line up together. So when you simplify your paths and simplify your shapes as much as you can. So in the next tutorial, we'll go into how to continue messing around with these and do more of them.